Hey, I'm Carlos here from the Fringe team, and we also got Heroics Fringe, who's our CTO, Brian. And yeah, we very recently listed ApeCoin as a collateral asset on our lending platform. So we've been really looking forward to hold something to talk about ApeCoin, about DAOs, about NFTs, because we're also implementing NFT lending soon. So yeah, it's just like happy to be here.
Nice. Thanks for having us. Why don't you, for like the people who might not know, why don't you go over a little bit like who you are, like what you guys got going on, and yeah, we'll just start there.
All right, cool. Brian, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, okay, I'll give you a quick rundown of who we are. We are Fringe Finance. Essentially, at the core, we're a lending platform, but we have quite a number of differentiators that set us apart in the market. We allow borrowers to use their long tail assets as collateral to take out stablecoin loans. And when I talk about long tail assets there, I talk about smaller cap tokens who otherwise couldn't deploy their capital elsewhere in the DeFi ecosystem. Quite often, those people are passionate about the projects and they're waiting for the upside of their token price potential. So this gives them the opportunity to deploy these tokens while they wait for the upside. They can take out loans. In popular stablecoins such as USDC, and then deploy that elsewhere in the DeFi ecosystem. We've got a couple of different personas of users, and particularly that is just retail users of or retail holders of those altcoins, and also DAOs who have their treasury, a large part of it, in their project token. And this allows them to hold their token instead of selling it onto the market, hold their token, take out stablecoin loans to fund operational costs and further development and investment in their project. So there are a great set of use cases here. And on the other side of it, we've got the lenders who lend their stablecoins and can, generally get better interest rates than they may otherwise get if they are just deploying the US dollar denominated assets into the traditional banking system. So that's us in a nutshell in terms of what we do and the kinds of users that interact with us. But we've got a number of really cool things that really further differentiate us. We a couple of months ago, we released our core lending platform. We have on our pipeline a staking platform, which is now finished audit, and we're going through the process of releasing that into mainnet, and that will allow a lot of incentive programs. It's quite general purpose to be established for the benefit of the whole ecosystem, and our partners can play into that as well. We are providing the ability to borrow against NFTs. And particularly what that means is borrow against NFTs that have been fractionalized into ERC20 tokens on platforms such as NFTX, where there is good liquidity for those fractionalized ERC20 tokens. We're going to provide markets for those and the ability to use that as collateral to take out loans. And we think that is exciting because there's quite a lot of activity in the NFT space, and I think we can offer the market there extra utility for their NFT, so their NFTs for pure non-custodial permissionless lending. So we think that is quite good. Other things that we're introducing are fixed rate lending and insurance on our platform, as well as lending against LP tokens, liquidity provider tokens. So that's a little bit about us and what our roadmap entails. We think we've got a really good sweet spot of functionality there, and Ethereum is our first chain that we're deployed on, and now we're in the process of testing on Polygon and another series of L2s and L1s and side chains. So we are certainly very busy at the moment, and there's a lot more to come with this project, and we're quite excited. We're working with a great team, and we seem to have a really good community. And now we've listed around 15 assets as collateral, and we are listing more and more each month. This month we listed, or last month we listed half a dozen or so, and that will continue. So we're very excited about that. There you go.
Are you focusing on like certain collections, or is it like just you know, apes or doodles, or you know, it could be any NFT, like, or what's key?
Yes, excellent question. So the way that works is it will very much depend on the available liquidity and the size of the token. Okay, so just generally in terms of a lending platform, we can provide lending against collateral so long as it meets certain thresholds. And those thresholds primarily deal with, and you know, there's a number of factors, but primarily it is to do with the liquidity in the marketplace to allow, there has to be sufficient liquidity in the marketplace. And the reason for that is if there are adverse market conditions, the liquidators liquidate under collateralized loans or loans that fall below a minimum threshold of collateralization. And there needs to be markets, trading venues for those tokens to enable the liquidators to perform or to dispose of the assets that they win in liquidation. Now, if there aren't good markets for that, then liquidators will be unwilling to perform those liquidations, and therefore the whole platform will be compromised. So long and the short of it is, it will generally be larger tokens where there are good secondary markets for the fractionalized ERC20 tokens that fractionalize the NFTs. And that's just generally, but specifically it's apes, and there's a few others that fall into this threshold, but we're continuing to do further assessment of NFTs and the marketplace changes, so that will be something that we'll be able to advertise fairly soon.
Cool. Yeah, I know there's been some talks about like liquidity problems like across like DAOs or across like different tokens, and I know that if Borovic wants to chime in on like the dust and you know that liquidity, and maybe give him an example.
Yeah, sure. I mean, with dust, basically it's pretty illiquid. If you look at total market cap and what's backing it, well, last I checked, it was combined SOL and USDT. It was like 400K max that was backing that liquidity pool. So if that's all the money you have backing an asset that's like $70 million, quote unquote, market cap, it's not a true market cap. That means that someone can market sell like 1-2% and tank that price 50%. So it's very illiquid, and when something's out of liquid, it's very dangerous. When 100K could make the market cap go up by like 20 million, and the same 100K can make it go down 20 million. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we have a number of other factors that play into the lending parameters that we define. And I certainly didn't explain this earlier, but one of them is debt limits, because there is only so much liquidity in the marketplace. We will allow borrowing up to a certain debt limit, because liquidators need to be able to dispose of that, as I say, into the trading venues, and there needs to be sufficient liquidity for them to be able to do that. So what we'll find with a lot of our smaller cap tokens, there may be debt limits of even less than $1 million USD. But for some of our larger tokens, the debt limits are, over 50 million, over 80 million. So we can very much still provide a very stable platform for a lot of these smaller tokens, but some of the matters that need to be considered is the debt limit. Yeah, and we just need to contain that so that the platform remains stable. But excellent point. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
just one last point on that. We apply quite a lot of science to that because our platform is quite different to a lot of the other lending platforms out there that satisfy lending against larger cap assets. And we apply special attention to the parameter definitions for our lending. And this is described in our blog. So for people who are interested, you can have a look around our blog and find the post around the debt limit or the lending parameter modeling that we define. And we're just about to release another blog post that describes that more fully for any of the nerds who love going into detail, more detail than you probably safely ever want to do in your life around modeling debt limits. So have a look at the existing content that we've produced for that, and we've got some new content coming. So yes, keep your eye on that.
Speaking of content, do you guys have any anything that we could share or pin to this space that maybe gives the viewers an insight to like what the what you guys got going on? And I see the Medium article, but is there any like maybe previews that you have on your Twitter?
Carlos, you can probably provide a bit of info on that. I'm sure you're the expert on all the content there.
Well, I was hoping that one didn't come my way because I didn't understand what you said. Can you repeat?
No, I was just saying, do you have any like content that you could share or pin to the space? I just found that one of your Medium articles. I'm gonna pin the other one, but I was just wondering maybe if there's any like a video you have or something that we could share with the people.
Sure. Currently, we don't have any videos. We just get our first one produced, but it's currently not ready. This monthly update, however, that you shared, it's pretty good. The other tweet that you pinned, it also includes some of our collateral assets. However, I encourage everyone to go to app.fringe.fi, so that they can check our open markets. We currently have lending markets for 16 different collateral types, and that's like 16 different tokens that you can borrow stablecoins against. Another article that you might want to pin and you might want to look for is our collateral asset parameter modeling. That's that name could probably be sexier, but that's what it is. And it's the document where we describe how we calculate how many stablecoins are you able to borrow against any given collateral type. So that factors in their volatility, that factors in their liquidity, and a bunch of things. And it's just a very interesting read for anyone, both in the DGen and on the TradFi community.
Absolutely. Hey, VonDoom or Borvik, do you guys have any experience like with this, like with lending and using a platform like this?
I don't have any myself. I've looked into it before, but I don't know. This one sounds like it's a lot more well thought out than some of the stuff I've looked into in the past.
I have experience on the token side, not the NFT side. On the token side, I've used Aave, Compound, some of the major protocols for for example, like lending out USDC, earning like a small interest. But as far as like NFTs and stuff like that, I haven't really done anything on that side.
Yeah. Okay. So they're really good analogies, and some of the logic that we use is similar in concept to Compound. So in terms of the analogy of the platform, it's very, very similar. But again, because of our focus on smaller cap tokens, there's a different feel, and we make the platform, we think, sleeker to use. The user interface is sexier, and it's easier to interact with. But yeah, in terms of analogy, if people are familiar with any of the existing lending platforms out there, or the good ones, I should say, there's certainly a lot of joy that will be experienced moving to our platform or using it with having had any experience with those existing better platforms out there. Yeah.
Yep. But I also wanted to bring up the point too, of like lending protocols. It's actually like I think it was summer of 2020 when DeFi summer of the whole yield farming thing. So like I don't know if you have any plans to like I know it's usually like very very small kind of tokens, for like during that kind of craze, and I think we're gonna have a second DeFi summer where there's gonna be another big craze of yield farming, and I really think that's coming. So are you guys kind of preparing for any of that?
That's an interesting comment. I've got some thoughts on that. One of the things that has become apparent with a lot of the DeFi projects is they attract a lot of attention through short-term incentivization, and some of those, such as yield farming, and some of those incentivizations are unsustainable. And so what they find is they throw a bunch of capital at providing short-term incentivization to attract people to their platform. And sure enough, it brings people to the platform. But as soon as they run out of capital to, just throw out of helicopters to the stakers in the yield farms, then those yield farmers, the users, then move on to the next project. And there's not a lot of traction that the original project through the yield farming, unsustainable yield farming program has achieved. So Fringe Finance looks at the yield farming opportunity with a bit of a sober mind, because there's all those good lessons that yield farming as an end isn't sustainable and it doesn't help the project. So what we have planned is to ensure that our programs are always sustainable. And Fringe Finance is going to be here for the long term. And our approach to that is to provide yield or incentives for various actors in the Fringe Finance ecosystem. And largely, by and large, it will be funded by the project and the revenue that the project collects through platform fees that it collects for usage on the platform. I think the short answer to that is yes, we will be providing yield for various aspects to incentivize participation in our platform or the whole ecosystem. And we'll be doing it in a measured manner. And the benefit for everyone there is everyone in that Fringe ecosystem knows that their token will long-term be worthwhile holding, because it will continue to attract users, and there will be a moat around the user base insofar as we've got quite a number of value or distinct value propositions as part of our offering. And we believe that just a sensible and a measured approach to that will continue to facilitate adoption and long-term viability for this project. So that's kind of our approach. I can talk a little bit more about some of the incentive programs, but I think, it behooves everyone in the DeFi ecosystem to look at what's happened in the past and learn appropriate lessons from it. And there's some of the lessons that we take out of this, and it certainly shapes the approach that we intend to take moving forward. I hope that gives you a bit of insight and or answers your question.
Yeah, you brought up some good points as well. That like one that I wanted to just piggyback off of. Like you said, like it's like some people will get like an airdrop, from a launch pad. Okay, not a launch pad. From a what is the word I'm looking for? From a platform, dropping a web or whatever, and you get an airdrop of 7 ETH or 3 ETH or whatever it may be. There's really no incentive to stay on the platform other than just getting, that bag and we need an incentive to stay on the platform is what I'm getting at. So it would be nice to know what you can provide to the people that would use your platform.
Yes. Okay, so a bit more detail around that. Some of the incentives we offer or we intend to offer, because we are yet to come to market with our staking platform. It will be occurring within the next few weeks. Will be to incentivize lenders. Lenders already have an incentive, and that is the interest rate that you receive for depositing their tokens, their stable coins to be lent out. We will attract further lenders by offering yield, a reward for them to stake their, what are called their F tokens in this case, which are our yield-bearing tokens that evidence their deposit of capital into our lending pool. And that not only benefits or attracts lenders to our platform, but it indirectly attracts borrowers. Because of the game theory dynamic in the interest rate algorithms, the more lenders that come to the platform, they will deposit more capital, and as a consequence, the algorithm then lowers the interest rate for borrowers so that we can attract borrowers to begin to increase the utilization rate of that lending platform. So as a consequence of other incentives to bring lenders to the platform, it indirectly incentivizes borrowers to come to the platform. So that's one of the programs that we intend to establish. And that will be both a bootstrapping program, and also we'll look to establish that as an ongoing program as and when the platform may need. Some other staking and incentive mechanisms that we'll have will be to incentivize liquidity provision of either trading pairs involving our governance token in trading venues that support that. That means any liquidity providers in those trading venues can post their LP tokens and receive some rewards on that. And so that's good for the liquidity of our governance token. Other programs that we may have in mind, as we have a stablecoin platform which we are bringing to market also, and we will provide a reward for our stablecoin holders. So essentially an additional incentive to use or additional utility for holding that stablecoin. First of all, the utility in holding a stablecoin is that it is stable. And second of all, if that stablecoin is relatively easily deployable to other DeFi platforms in the DeFi ecosystem, well, then it has that utility, that use. And also this third utility that we'll provide is that saving facility, so that they can gain a yield on holding this stablecoin. So those, I hope, give you a good example of some of the mechanisms and or incentives programs that we have in mind. But because our staking platform is fairly general purpose, there's going to be other programs that come out of that. And what I just mentioned is not the full set, but just to give you a bit of insight.
Nice. Yeah, it's just, I feel like in this space, it's just so hard to keep everyone's attention span. So like the constant, building and innovating is extremely important. You just hate to see, like, for instance, I remember I forgot the token. It was like an SOS token, I believe. And like, I didn't even know the use case of it. So like, or if there was any, I'm sure there was, but like, I think that these projects need to do a better job at actually explaining and providing the value rather than just giving somebody, money up front.
Yeah. I think something that I wanted to add about Fringe's value propositions was that we've finally seen a lot of what we propose. confirmed by other players in the space as good practices. For example, Compound's latest version that they're rolling out, they're implementing quite a bit of practices that we thought of and that we were designing independently. And all of a sudden, it looks like they're moving the same direction. So that's quite cool. I think a big difference, however, is how the projects use their native tokens. And in that regard, you can say that blue chips are almost perfect to be deemed as securities because people are just purchasing them in hopes for them to increase in value with as their platforms grow in usage. Whereas we're trying to insert a token that has true utility behind the scenes of the Fringe platform. And that's what I think it's like the biggest differentiator and something that truly sets Fringe Finance apart.
Do you guys plan on getting like listed on like, you know, Coinbase and other exchanges like that?
That's a really good question. We potentially may. However, we have quite the philosophy around the true value proposition of DeFi. And the core value proposition of DeFi is its uncensorability. And there seems to be a bit of movement in the market at the moment to turn DeFi projects into, or to remove that value proposition from DeFi, which means it just becomes TradFi or centralized finance. And so there's a few things playing out there. And I think Coinbase ultimately, because they're a registered, financial services provider, these organizations may legally be required to only interact with platforms that are traditional finance. So it's going to be interesting to see the way things pan out over the next, short period, but a few years. And all of this is really brought to head with what's happened in the last month with Tornado Cash and USDC blacklisting certain accounts. So it's quite interesting to see what's going to unfold here. But there are peer-to-peer and permissionless and decentralized trading venues, and they're growing. And so, there's less and less need for centralized finance to really be a crucial strategic aspect of a DeFi's project. So, there's a lot to that, and there's a lot to unpack, but that's a bit of an introduction to the general ideas or the general matters that revolve around that.
I think we have seen people take up loans collateralized by their APECOINs on the platform. And I really, starting from these, I have started paying more attention to the ape ecosystem, whereas before I wasn't too into NFTs, but I find it quite cool that there's so much happening to it. And I found that there's this whole concept of renting an ape that's emerged. There seems to be quite a few ways for people to get their apes to work for them. Have you tried any of that, Thomas?
Tried any what? What was that?
Yeah, any of these ways to get your ape to work for you, either by like taking a loan or I think there's rental now of apes.
Yeah, there's the only thing that I've looked into is like licensing my ape. I'm not really too sure how like I haven't really looked into like loaning or like any of what was the other one you just said, like, or like fractionalizing it or whatnot. But I think the licensing thing is pretty interesting, especially in this NFT space, and kind of, the whole reason and what makes them valuable is their IP. So that's why I kind of like looked into the licensing path of like getting my ape on like maybe a weed brand, or there's one of my friends is on like a hot sauce. So I saw one company is doing like a beer, I believe. So like that kind of stuff really intrigues me, because you're providing a direct product to the people, and then you're using your IP. We saw with the Moonbird and how when they announced they weren't doing, they changed from that to CCO, kind of was like a very controversial, because one, for reason that they kind of was unexpected, and for two, it kind of devalues the NFT because you can't use it how people wanted to.
Right on. Borovic, you can hear us okay, right?
Yep, I can hear you guys fine.
All right, cool. Yeah, we were just talking about like the ways people can use their NFTs outside of just showcasing them as profile pictures and so on. And because obviously, like, we're providing an additional utility to the ApeCoin, and through that, I discovered that there's many ways for people to put their NFTs to work. Have you looked into any of that?
Ways that I could put my NFT to work?
Yeah, so we were talking about like fractionalizing and intellectual property and renting the apes and all that.
So, I don't know. I don't really want to fractionalize my ape or my punk. I feel like, personally, I mean, I guess if I had a lot of different apes, if I was Franklin, I have a bunch, there's an opportunity to, monetize that, then I guess I would, but I haven't really looked too much into it.
All right. How active would you say you guys are within the ApeCoin DAO? And yeah, or what's your impression on everything the DAO is doing? I know that they very recently launched the Gazette.
I'm not really involved in the DAO, even though I probably should be. VonDoom, do you vote on that kind of stuff?
I vote on this stuff, and I try to read the proposals. I mean, it's tough to keep up, just like everything in this space is tough to keep up with, just because we're flooded with so much info every day. So I usually do like a top line skim of what the proposals is, and if it's something that I think is important, I'll read it. If it's something that I don't think really would affect, me or the pricing or whatever, there's definitely been a few proposals that have been pretty poorly written that I made sure to vote down on. But for the most part, I try to keep up with stuff. Yeah, just because I'm so over leveraged in JPEGs and ApeCoin.
We all are, bro.
We all are. I know. Max Payne. I mean, as far as projects
Right,
go,
so
where else you gonna go, right? Yeah.
If you want to leverage yourself even further, you can always take out a loan, collateralize your ape, buy more ApeCoin.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that right now. I don't know. Just for me personally, just where ETH is, I don't know. Is it going to go back to 2,500? Are we going to 800? I mean, are we going to zero like Timas always says? Maybe we are. It's hard to say. I don't think we're going to zero. I think that the merge will be fine, I hope. And we should hopefully start seeing it move back up. I mean, I think, like, from my own personal view on the market now in general, like, all the markets are down. Everything. Real estate is down. Inflation is up. Gas prices are a little bit lower, but they still suck everywhere. So I just think that, it's the whole macro, climate is tough. So it's good to have options. If you're sitting on a large collection, like me and a lot of my fellow apes on this spaces, it's not a bad thing to have these kind of options, with a platform that is trying to do it right.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah, I think a key point there was what you just mentioned, which is these platforms and Fringe finances ultimately gives people the options and the flexibility that they need so that they can more readily execute upon their financial strategies. And because people have assets and capital, and these NFTs and so forth represent assets and capital, and with maximizing the value of any capital is deploying it appropriately in accordance with your financial strategies. And so platforms such as ours allows those holders with certain intent and financial acumen to be able to begin to execute on any financial strategies with a bit more flexibility. So that's what we're intending to do, to provide these core composable primitives around lending so that users directly on our platform can use our user interface to our graphical user interface to interact with our platform, and also directly with our contracts via other protocols that employ our primitives in a composable manner. So yes, you're quite right. It's all new these days. These instruments are new, NFTs, as well as the whole DeFi ecosystem is new, and they represent value and wealth that people hold. And to be able to execute financial strategies requires flexibly requires the availability of the kinds of platforms and facilities that we're piecing together here. So yes, we're here for the long term, and as people decide more and more to do various things with their assets, they will need to employ these kinds of core lending facilities and primitives in the DeFi space more and more. So yeah, that's definitely our philosophy, and we agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that these types of platforms are going to become more popular, as time goes on and when we start to enter the bull market again. Right now it's kind of difficult, we are in a bear market. People are kind of scared. There's not really a lot of action going on. But if you, like you said, you guys are here for the long run. If you put your heads down and build during this bear market and get everything set up for when the bull comes back, it's going to be cake.
Yes, that's definitely what we have in our sights. Yes.
Well, one thing that I find funny though, because we've talked a bit about macro environment, and of course, like inflation currently sucks. All different assets are down, and at the same time, you just saw like an ancient god on Solana go for I don't know how much, 200 something thousand. So why do you think like NFTs are
like
considerably
220,000
unaffected by this kind of thing?
I mean, I think you've got, look, you've got power projects like anything from Yuga, like DeGods, which, apparently is seemingly the I wouldn't say it's the Bored Ape of Sol, but it's like, it's the biggest, most interesting thing on Sol by far. There's some cool stuff happening there for sure. But like that thing, they're building against the bull market and they're growing. Yuga's doing the same thing. Other projects doing the same thing. I think that like you've got a pretty wide valley between the ones that are gonna continue to really grow and build and the ones that are just gonna run out of capital. But then more stuff will show up, and then they'll be better than the last run in a lot of ways, and then there'll be more cool, NFT artifacts that people can discover and love and trade and maybe incorporate into their own collections. Who knows?
You're also seeing like these ape copycats being born in all the different chains, and everyone's sort of like coming up with their own version of that, trying to ride the hype. I was just curious to asking you, do you see any value on all these different ape collections, or how?
In like
how's
derivatives or in like other things that like have ape, like
an ecosystem.
I mean, I think that like derivatives are just, they're fun and they're snacks, like you get it, you eat it, you forgot you ate it later, and you move on about your day. But I think like there's projects like Chimpers, I think is really doing a good job, and they're really doing a lot of fun things, and that's another kind of a monkey profile. But I don't know. What do you guys think, PMOS and Borvik?
Yeah, I personally, I really like derivatives because for me, like, for example, if like with Bored Ape derivatives, right, when you have thousands of derivatives of all kinds of apes, like that's really good because now you have people who are priced out of apes, they're able to have fun, enjoy, like kind of a copy of an ape. It also makes them want a real ape more. It makes the value of a real ape go up because now they're everywhere. I think, like,
Yeah, that's true.
People that say like, oh, I right click saved your ape, it's like, that's awesome. I want you to, because I want my ape everywhere. Like if my ape was plastered everywhere all over the internet, the value is going to go up a lot because I have the original. So why would anyone be mad at that? Like, why would I want an expensive asset that no one sees or no one knows I have? You know, so I definitely think that derivatives help expand the brand, and all it does is help BAYC in the long run.
Absolutely agree. And there's just a different element of fun too, like with derivatives. Like usually they're they're pretty cheap, but there's the opportunity there where it can break free, or there's some sort of, maybe there's a mystery behind it where people get along and like it creates a community, and that's kind of where we can see more onboarding of people into the NFT space, where these we saw with Goblins, they were a free mint, and a lot of people who were maybe not involved in the NFT space were able to get in at an early price and build around the community now.
Yeah, Brian, is there anything you want to add about NFTs and how to further increase their exposure to DeFi? Because I think this is all, like, we talked about the tokenization of the economy a long time ago as an industry. That was a big topic, and that's kind of been forgotten. But of course, DeFi access is a big part of what would make that possible.
Yes. Okay. NFTs have value for a number of reasons, and one reason is its collectability, its rareness, etc. And another reason, which is not fully realized, is its utility, how it can be used. And as I mentioned several moments ago, these platforms, these DeFi, and essentially, they're financial platforms that allow better deployment of capital in a financial ecosystem. It gives NFTs additional utility. And through that additional utility, the NFTs derive greater value. So, for example, if the market for collectibles varies, then if there's any shortfall or any attrition of the value of a given asset because of its collectability, then that could very well be made up by additional utility that is available in being able to deploy the asset in a financial realm. So my view is platforms such as Fringe Finance ultimately benefit the NFT marketplace or ecosystem by providing additional utility for those NFTs. So that's, that's kind of where I'm coming from things here. And that's what our mission here at Fringe Finance is, in respect of providing these facilities for NFT holders, ultimately to give them additional facility and utility for their assets. And as a consequence, our platform can collect very small fees, and our fee is a percentage of the interest that is paid by borrowers, and that benefits the Fringe governance token holders.
I think it's pretty interesting to see what goes on with especially with apes, because they're becoming a bit of a pop culture figure, aren't they? Like nowadays you see like the whole thing that happened with Eminem and with Snoop Dogg and M&M's, the chocolate brand and all that. At least in the city I used to live in Buenos Aires, you would see graffitis of apes coming up in all places. So it really seems like people are embracing them and they're turning into a bit of a cultural revolution of sorts. So I wanted to also ask you guys, where do you think this is all leading? Where do you think apes are going to be in like 5 years, 10 years? Or do you see like the current state of things as far as we're going to get, or what do you think is in the future?
I mean, I'll feel this one, and then I've got a dip because I have a noon coming up. But I personally, I think that like what Yuga's building is going to be the de facto metaverse for Web3. I don't see. I mean, look, Facebook Meta has a lot of money. but we've all seen what they put out, and I don't think anybody really likes them as a company anymore or trusts them. You've got other players in the mix, but I feel like Yuga's doing everything right. They've got at least $500 million in, just dry powder sitting to build. On the the 1 million Twitter follower celebration, I think Garga said they're adding like 5 people a week to their team. I mean, they're at 80 people now. I mean, that means in a matter of weeks, they're going to be at 120, and in a matter of weeks, they're going to be at 160, then 200. So they're just going to continue to scale up these talented designers and developers. They're using the right platform to build it. They're using Unreal Engine, which is, Epic Games has sunk billions of dollars worth of profit from Fortnite into creating all of the wiring for the metaverse. Being that they're building on Unreal, they're able to leapfrog a massive amount of hurdles in terms of technology and just building in general and intelligence. So I see it as, apes have been a cultural fascination forever. I mean, they're our closest cousins, right? We came from apes, so I feel like there's always been a bit of a human obsession on apes. And you look at like franchises like Planet of the Apes. I mean, that shit's been with us for 50 plus years at this point, and it's still being made into more franchises and comic books and artwork and everything. I just see it continuing to move up and become more culturally relevant as more people that are into crypto open up to NFTs, and more people that are into collectibles open up to NFTs and the possibility, not to mention the fact that, people that, if a play to earn game is done correctly, people will actually make money playing games and have fun and enjoy themselves. So I think that other side kind of potentially can do that more so than anybody else that I've seen. And I have very actively been studying this space for years. I mean, one of my IRL businesses is a visualization company. We work with Unreal Engine. We basically make video games for our enterprise, and we make metaverses, and I know this space very well. So seeing what Yuga's doing gives me full confidence, and I don't have an issue that a large portion of my net worth is based in ApeCoin and pictures of cartoon monkeys.
Yep, and I have the same thoughts as Von Doom, but I'll also add this. I think that punks and apes are two sides of the same coin, because
100%.
punks come from like the whole cyberpunk aspect of early people on the web, like the early people in crypto, very very early people in crypto, and then aping comes from the fact that, hey, like we were aping into all these random like shit coins and whatnot over the last decade, right? You started aping into Feathercoin, and then like obviously we had Ethereum come, and then all the ICOs, and I was aping into ICOs back in 2017 on all those dexes that we were using, like Ether Delta. So everyone was always posting those ape memes. So technically we are cyberpunks that like to ape in. So that's why I think punks and apes are like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
Couldn't
absolutely.
agree more.
Yeah, and you also have the element of like CryptoPunks. Weren't they like the first like generative 10K project on the blockchain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a historical value there too, which really plays in.
I like how you're thinking about it as in terms of like a popular franchise as opposed as of like art, because I often tend to find myself thinking about these things as pop art, like the famous Can of Soup by Andy Warhol or that kind of thing. When in reality you could see this going in many directions, and one of them is like becoming the new, to say one name, like you said, Planet of the Apes or Simpsons or whatever. You can just see this that take up that level of cultural relevance. I find that thought really cool.
I think it's markets have dips, and it's a roller coaster, and anybody that's been investing for more than 15 minutes can see that. I feel like that this is the beginning of a lot of future progress. I feel like it's cliche to say we're still early, but you look at the analytics on Dune, and you see the number of people that are in this, and there's more people. I think we had an interesting little season when you had all the the TikTok kids come in and then shit post and get angry because they their project didn't, you know, instantly become the quote unquote the next Bored Apes, which there won't be another Bored Apes. There'll be a something else, but there won't be another Bored Ape. There won't be another CryptoPunk. It's just not possible. There will be other really dope shit, but it won't be those things. And I think people need to find those things. But I think now that like a lot of those traders have, you know, lost the $1,200 they started with, they got tired of shit posting in Discords and they moved on back to their day job at Burger King. And now it's actually back to people that are smart and thoughtful and trying to ideally build and not just flip. That's what I like to see personally. Look, I appreciate the invite to this, and I'm going to look into this more. T-Moss, Boro, I love you guys. You guys are two of my favorite apes of all time. You know that. I got to dip to another space, but thank you for the invite.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much for joining. And yeah, I'm going to accept another request to. Okay, actually, his handle is NFTs are gay, so no, I'm not going to accept you to speak. But yeah, it's been really cool to speak with you guys. And like I said, for those that just joined, Fringe Finance is enabling you to take up loans collateralized by APECOIN on our platform. To view that, go to app.fringe.fi. That's AFI. And yeah, take a look. You can take out stablecoin loans backed by your ApeCoins. And I think that's pretty cool. Is there anything you'd like to close with, Thomas Warwick, about, just anything that we talked about in this conversation?
Not really. I think you did a great job explaining everything. Overall, you know, I'm bullish on the space and what, you know, products that you guys are building. So it's just, you know, good to see. We just got to get through this little bear market that we're in.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining. And Brian, is there anything you'd like to close with?
Yeah, I just want to thank the guys for coming on. This is really great. You know, you guys know what's happening in the NFT space. To spread the word, I think, is really good, not only from allowing your community or, you know, the cohort that you guys interact with largely to learn about these new facilities within the DeFi ecosystem and how it can help NFT holders, but also to give the Fringe community an understanding of what's happening in the NFT space. That's a really good cross-pollination. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming along.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is what it's all about.
Right on. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who joined. The whole recording of this conversation, we did it through 2 Spaces links, so the whole recording is going to be on our YouTube channel pretty soon, and you can listen to the whole thing, especially the first part, which some of you missed. And well, thank you very much. This was Carlos from Fringe, Brian from Fringe, and joined by a cohort of apes. Thank you very much. Take care.
Great.
Good day, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.